and welcome to the Rainbow Umbrella, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything under the rainbow. This month, I am joined by Amy and Grace from Life Matters Suicide Prevention here in Ōtepoti Dunedin. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting us, Mel.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So let's just get into it. So Life Matters, how long have you both been there?
I've been there since October 2023. It's that weird time of the year, so I have to remember what last year or last year.
Yeah, it's 25 now. We're a whole new world.
Yeah, it's crazy. I keep writing the wrong date on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
I have been with Life Matters since, I think it was March of 2023.
Oh, yeah.
So I was a volunteer first while I was finishing my degree. And then I volunteered like 2 to 4 hours a week for that first year while studying. And then in November 2023, I started working full-time and have been working full-time since, which I love. It's great.
Cool. So yeah, the volunteer aspect is, I think, something that's really amazing about Life Matters. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that works?
Grace can. I was that person that loitered in the background watching Life Matters for many years going, I want to work with you, but I need to pay bills. So I came on when the paid roles came on. Grace, however.
Yeah, so I started out as a volunteer, and I originally found out about Life Matters in Corinda about a year before I started as a volunteer. I kind of missed the cutoff when I originally found out about Life Matters to start as a volunteer in 2022. Mm-hmm. And as a volunteer, you do like a bunch of training leading up to starting your work as a peer supporter. And then the volunteer aspect is it's directed a bit by you on when you're available to come in, but also the people that you're supporting. So you start off working with alongside another qualified, like trained peer supporter that's been there for a while and shadowing them, supporting other people. And then over time you got your own people that you would support, and it was usually like 1 or 2-ish, so that you'd be having 1 or 2 sessions a week. Usually it would keep it to 1 and then just like build up as you go depending on your availability. And it was really good because it worked around studying very well. So a lot of us that were volunteers were studying somewhere in the like health, well-being kind of psych department. There were some that were doing other degrees and things, but no, it was amazing and definitely such an awesome way to get into doing peer support. And I was so excited when the paid positions came up. It was like the perfect timing for me as well, because I was just finishing my degree at the time that those positions came up, and I was like, this is just perfect.
It was meant to be then, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. So you've mentioned peer support, and so for those people that are listening that might not know the kaupapa of Life Matters, can we unpick that a little bit? What do you do with peer support? What does it mean to be a peer support worker?
So many things. I guess I was kind of fortunate to roll straight into doing intentional peer support training, which is what we practice at Life Matters, or IPS for short. And in a really, I guess, condensed way of putting it, it's all about thinking in relationships. And what makes peer support different to clinical services, for example, is that we have all got lived experience. So it's about using our experiences of mental distress, bereavement from suicide, addictions, anything you can think of. One of us has probably experienced it. And we use those experiences and how we've navigated them to hold space for tangata whaiora, which means person seeking health, to navigate whatever it is they might need to. And we think about not helping, but rather learning together. So our mahi is not about fixing people. It's about holding the space for people to feel empowered to move towards whatever it is they need to move towards.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit to that as well, I like to think about the lived experience aspect as like we all come in as wholly ourselves, and we can bring ourselves completely into supporting people, so we don't have to censor what we're saying and censor our experience to make it like easier for someone else to digest, because everyone else is living through their experiences too. And I like to think of my lived experience as like a story, the taonga that I bring into supporting others. So using it as a treasure and exactly what it is and the learnings from it to help someone that may be going through a similar thing. Yeah.
I think that's such a beautiful way of approaching the work that you do, because it's all very well to have an understanding, even at just a minimal foundational level of what someone might be experiencing. But if you've actually experienced it or have had that kind of personal connection with it, I think you're in a much better place to support the people that you're dealing with. So I think that's such a beautiful way of doing the mahi. Yeah.
And I think it allows so much more space for people to feel comfortable to share what they're going through, because they know that they're talking to someone that's been through the same thing or something similar or something completely different, but that had similar experiences and feelings that were brought up by that experience. And I think that is often missing a bit in other services where it's a bit more sterile and, you're sharing so much of yourself, but you learn nothing really about the person, the clinician that's supporting you. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot more empathy involved in what we do because of that.
Yeah, and I guess in saying that as well, we are very much in the business of thinking in relationships, which also means our relationships are with clinical services and other organisations.
Exactly.
And we're so for fostering that because, we need each other just as much. And I think, the reality of things like psychotherapy is there are hundreds of different models and they involve different aspects, and self-disclosure becomes a big topic, but I won't dive into that as much as more about, it's about trust. And if you know where I've come from and what I've been, and even just listening to somebody speak openly with vulnerability and authenticity about their experiences, it really opens that space for others to do the same.
For sure. And I mean, the environment that you've created in the actual space that you have is really welcoming and comforting too. So when I first met you, getting the tour of the space, I was just like, yeah, you can see how this is a really welcoming and relaxing space that you definitely feel safe having potentially a really intense kōrero with someone about.
Absolutely.
That's the vibe I got.
I'm pretty sure I was holding a coffee sitting in a beanbag when
Yes.
I met you. So yeah. It's a common, I love doing peer support from a beanbag.
Yeah.
It's great. So comfy. I love being near the floor.
Yeah. You can't beat a good floor sit.
Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, especially when having big conversations like that, we're all sitting around a table right now and, the conversation feels natural, but we're not potentially having really, really heavy conversations. I mean, we might get to that point, who knows? But do you know what I mean? Like it's would be so much easier if you're both sitting on the floor or, there's no barrier in between to having
100%.
those conversations.
It also creates that very mutual dynamic, which is really important and like a massive part of peer support as well, is that mutuality in those relationships. So making sure that both people, peer supporter and tangata whaora, are comfortable and seated in a way that feels good to them is also really important just in like that aspect as well.
Options. And I mean, we've got 3 different rooms at the Hope Centre that we work out of, so that's at 63 Hanover Street. And we've got the marama room, which is my favourite. It's full of light. It's a big open space, high ceilings, makes me feel very open. And we've got, more natural lighting or dim lighting. And then Manaki, which is a smaller room, which can also make people feel comforted in a different way. And then Puawai, which is also another big open space with a couple of chairs. And yeah, they've all got their own vibe. So you might pick and choose depending on what works for everyone involved.
And that's really nice to be able to have the option as well, because some days you might want, open and high ceilings and lots of light, but then there might be another time where you're like, actually, I don't want any light, never use the big light sort of thing, just want a nice, quiet, cozy space. Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously the nature of the mahi that you do involves having some really intense conversations with people, and obviously you've both mentioned your lived experience. That's obviously something that in a small part or a big part you continue to live, regularly, given the work that you do. So how do you look after yourselves in that space? Because whilst the job that you're doing is really rewarding, I imagine it's also at some points emotionally taxing as well.
Yeah, this is something that we've had so many conversations about over the last year, and I can't say I'm always the absolute best at it. I like to work myself very hard and give a lot to other people, and it can be challenging sometimes to step back from that and be like, actually, no, I really need to do something for myself and rest or get outside. My main forms of self-care are usually like exercising, whether that's walking, running. I love surfing. I can't surf at the moment though because of my concussion recovery, which is really sad, but that's okay. And doing like journaling or just reflection, chatting with friends, actually getting outside and enjoying nature, just like standing or sitting in the grass, connecting myself to the earth is always a big self-care part for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, as Grace is putting it as well, we don't always nail it.
Definitely not.
But I think that's where, for me, what I've found very different working at Life Matters than other organisations is that, self-care is also community care. It's also hope centre care. Mm. We look after each other. Mm. And, the amount of times that, I've harped onto Grace or she's harped onto me, like, have you taken a break? Have you taken a full break? It's like, your lunch break's half an hour. It's only been 10. Can you go back up there, please, and finish your dinner? But, yeah, I think, the way that we work in terms of, like, what we do in peer practice is that after every session we have a reflection with a colleague, either a senior peer supporter or team leader, and that allows us the space that we need to bring out whatever might have come up for us. So sometimes, if you're holding a crisis session, and when we use the word crisis, we're referring to somebody in suicidal crisis, we're going to be in a bit of a different space in terms of our degree of intentionality. It's not that we necessarily do things differently than we would in a peer session. It's more that we're far more intentional about it. So we're going to slow it down. We're going to notice what's being said. We're going to take steps that are needed in terms of safety planning if that's appropriate. It looks different for everybody, but after a session like that, yeah, for sure, things come up. You might just need to have a moment to scream quietly because you don't want to disturb too many people. Or something might have come up for you that didn't feel appropriate to share in that moment, and you might share that in the reflection to get off your chest. Outside of work for me, because as you mentioned, it can be intense. So I play roller derby because matching intensity with intensity is a really good way for me to care for myself. And for me, roller derby is biopsychosocial. There's a community, there's the physical aspects, there's the mental development of strategy and skill. And it also means that, if I'm at home and if I'm overthinking something or getting caught up in somebody else's journey, I can check myself and be like, why don't you think about derby instead? And then automatically I've switched focus. And so for me, I guess, keeping safe or, keeping myself in line is more about where's my energy, where's my mind, where am I putting it, where should I be putting it? And what's left over. And if it's nothing, then I need to do better the next day.
Yeah. I think you touched on something really important there. Like, it's wonderful that you both have things outside of mahi to ground you and keep you focused where you need to be. But the fact that you have friendships with your colleagues and you've got that space where you can actually have a kōrero with each other, and you know that even if every session or every scenario is not exactly the same, you're surrounded by people who will understand what it is that you're dealing with in one way or another. And I think that's really beautiful.
So beautiful. We do surveys here and there around, how is our organisation going, how are we feeling, and over again, it's like, what do you love? And like, each other. We all love each other.
Literally have a whole team of friends. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful.
Just love it.
Yeah.
Couldn't ask for better co-workers.
Yeah. And that's it. It's the co-workers that make the mahi sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's I just don't feel like you can go into peer practice if you're not up for some good chats with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
You've got to be able to have the kōrero, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the willingness to share. And I think that's where, if you've I have a corporate background and those kind of environments, you're not necessarily encouraged to bring up what's really going on for you. But we are. Our lunch breaks. Wow.
It's like a peer support session in the lunchroom sometimes.
Oh, I love that. That's just a testament to the people that you work with and the environment that you've created. Like, even over a kai break, you're still having conversations that are going to lift and boost each other. I think that's wonderful.
Exactly. And it's actually been so interesting as well for me, the amount of... And I kind of knew that this would happen going into peer support because it's so lived experience based. But when you are sharing so much about yourself, things come up, but there's also so much healing that you can do from that. Like something might come up in a session or come up in a conversation with a coworker and you're like, oh, actually, I didn't realize how much that impacted me. But then you've got a whole space of people that, you know, you can work through that with, or you can work through it like by yourself outside of work. But it's just like I've definitely grown so much as a person just because of the people that we've been around and the conversations that I've been able to have in the space that we've created at Life Matters, which is so awesome.
That's so lovely.
I back that so hard as well. I mean, before this, you know, I'd done a lot of therapy and other work, but no matter what I did, I still felt like I was 2 years behind in my processing, and doing peer practice for a year, I'm like up to date.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe even beyond. So maybe there's some wiggle room there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, as Grace said, sometimes you don't realise what's still raw for you until you're really talking about it. And I guess, you know, for a real life example, I had a melanoma diagnosis last year, and I found out when I was at work. And I stayed at work because I was like, you know what, actually this is the best place for me to be. And even though my colleagues were like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, because I would much rather be with you guys talking about my very real lived experience in this moment than at home crying alone. So, you know, we could just get straight into some processing, and, you know, long story short, I'm all good now. Keep up with your mole maps.
Yeah.
Keep up your sunscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been taking extra care with my sunscreen this summer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I need to learn from my mistakes over the summer. Oh, okay. That is a very gnarly scar.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you've got a reminder now, haven't you? Like, apart from the fact that you've lived the experience.
Exactly. I just looked to the arm, and yeah, you know, now we can just joke and say that actually it was roller derby and I just shouldered someone too hard, so be careful.
Yeah, don't mess with me. You should see the other guy.
Came off far worse off.
Yeah. Amazing. So you've mentioned the Hope Centre, which is the Ōtepoti branch that you guys work at. Can you give me a little bit of history of the Hope Centre?
Yeah, so Hope Centre itself was opened in 2018 in Albion Lane, which is literally just one block over from
And
where
it was
we
a
currently
little
are.
shoebox.
Yeah. I never worked from that space myself. I went along to the opening just as a community member because I've always loved the work that Life Matters does, and I remember thinking, oh, this is nice, and I had a really good chat with somebody about different scents and what we really enjoyed or what made us feel calmer, and that was just such a nice experience, and I trotted back to my job at the time. But Grace, I don't know if you...
No, I never worked there either. I started as a volunteer pretty much just after they'd moved into the new premise on Hanover Street. So I can't actually comment on what it was like working there, but from what we've been told, it was very small and not a huge amount of privacy because it was all just one room with like the reception and the peer support space like partitioned off, but you know, it's not easy to have a huge amount of privacy in a space that doesn't actually have like full walls and things to block off the space, like section off the spaces with. But they worked out of there for a number of years, and that's where so much of what Life Matters is today built up from. So, you know, ultimately very grateful for having that space, even though I didn't get to experience it. And then I guess Life Matters is founded on bereavement and wanting to fill a gap in the community and the services, a space for people to come that isn't a clinical service and is accessible, so we're completely free. So anyone can just come in off the street or give us a call or email. We try to have as few barriers as possible to allow a space for someone to de-escalate if they're in crisis or work through something more long-term that's going on in their life over a period of time through peer support. So it's sort of like creating a space for whatever people need and filling that gap between, like hospitals and other like clinical services, which are so needed and so important, but often so full at the moment, that people can come to us while they might be waiting for a clinical service to get some peer support, or as a like just completely separate. They're not wanting to go to a clinical service, but they just need a bit of support from someone one-on-one, and we're a perfect place to do that.
So historically there used to be what was called the Crisis Cafe. So that would be, I think it was Thursdays into 9 p.m. And one of the beautiful things of us picking up a contract with Te Wharaora to fund our peer practice in August 2023 was that it also meant that we could expand in the way that we have. And what that means is we're now a 6-day service, open to 9 p.m, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's no longer, Thursday night drop-in. It's any time during our opening hours. Anybody in crisis can drop in. If our rooms are full, that is fine. We have a couch. We will always make sure that people feel safe and comfortable and work with them to navigate whatever their needs are. And, it's a dynamic model. We're constantly shifting. There might be times that we go, okay, well, hey, let's maybe sit outside together for a bit and just de-escalate or whatever's going to work for that person in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's probably what sets us apart from a lot of other peer organisations, to be fair, is that crisis space is so needed. And you'd be amazed at how many people might come in that space and leave feeling a lot more hopeful.
100%. And if someone doesn't feel comfortable like sitting on a couch and sharing their story, but they're still in distress, they can sit there and de-escalate, and usually within a couple hours we'll have a room that's available to actually have like a one-on-one private like peer support session with that person. So we also just have that option of just coming in and like just chilling on the couch to just have a space to actually just like calm and de-escalate, have a cup of tea, have a cake or a piece of fruit or something. We get amazing baking from Good Bitches Baking. So good.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It is. I didn't like cake before I started at Life Matters. And then once the Good Bitches Baking started rolling in, I was like, cake is amazing.
They're such good cooks. I cannot rave about them enough.
Yeah. Look,
Okay.
we do give it to our tangata whaiora. It's not just us.
Yeah.
But nobody likes waste. And
No. Well, now I'm going to have to go investigate Good Bitches Baking, I think.
Yeah.
How good. So you also mentioned about you find healing for yourselves and for the people that you work with as well in this space. So what do you think is the most rewarding thing about working with Life Matters? It might be a tricky question.
Oh, so many rewards. I don't know. Sometimes I like to take a historical perspective, I love my research. And, I know Grace mentioned before, Life Matters was founded on bereavement and bereavement support. And that was how I first came by them, was that Life Matters does an event on the 10th of September generally, which is the World Suicide Prevention Day. And I went along, and it was at the town hall at that time, and really I just needed a space to feel and cry and be, and it provided that. And I had no idea how far things would evolve with Life Matters and that I would end up there. And so a lot of the reward for me is to reflect on, especially as I go through anniversaries of losing friends to suicide, and on those days. So somebody that I lost 9th of August is a big day for me. And last year I was reflecting on, how incredibly appreciative and grateful I am that I have the skills and expertise and place to hold that space now. And it's still hard to go, I wish I'd had it back then. But that to me is that reward. So my hope is that I never have to feel that way again, because, it's about what you can take forward. And if the series of events probably, if they hadn't happened, then I don't know if I would have even been where I am. So,
Yeah, I think for me, there's so much in reflecting on the journey of being there that's rewarding, but also actually seeing the people that you're supporting go from coming in intense distress, maybe they're suicidal, maybe they've just got so much going on in their life that they don't know how to navigate, and then, in that first session leaving just feeling slightly better, maybe not 100%, they wouldn't necessarily say that they're feeling good, but they might have had a slight smile or a little bit of a laugh in that session and be able to leave and go back into their life and their world feeling slightly less distressed, but then more long-term, seeing those same people in a space that they're now thriving, or they're so much happier in their life and able to do those things that they thought a month, a year, however long ago, they would never be able to do. And that's just so amazing to see. And it's we walk alongside these people. They might be like, oh, you got me there. But really, they got themselves there. We were just there to give them a little bit of a leg up along the way if they needed it. And I just find that so rewarding. And I just love to see it. It's never been about the money for me. I started this as a volunteer, and yeah, it's just that part of the work is what I'm there for. And it just brings me so much joy.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it and hear it in your voice, like even just talking about doing the mahi, you can see the joy that it brings. So that's so lovely. That's so lovely. So in terms of the support that's offered, you have volunteers, but you also have paid positions. So if someone wants to volunteer, how would they go about doing that?
That's a good question. So we are a lot less volunteer driven now.
Okay.
So before we got the contract with Te Whatu Ora, which now funds our peer support side of our service, the organisation was predominantly volunteer driven. And there was a few paid admin staff and managers, but the majority of the peer supporters were all volunteers that came in. Whereas now I can't remember the exact numbers, but we have all pretty much paid staff, and then sometimes we have a few volunteers that come around when there's like a possibility that they might be joining in as a paid staff member, but just want to like have a taste of whether peer support is something that they feel comfortable doing. So in terms of the actual like peer support side of volunteering, we do a lot less of that. Sometimes there's opportunities that still come up, but it's far less often than it was. They used to do like the full intake of volunteers at the start of each year, but we don't do that anymore. We do, however, have a volunteer Facebook page. Can't remember exactly what it's called, but
I think it might even be like Life Matters volunteers, but we can flick you an email with some links and things. And
yeah, cool.
we do still need volunteers for events, so we'll have Street Appeal. Can't give you exact dates yet, but you know, watch the space. And that Facebook page is a good place to see where the drives are. Yeah. If you're not on Facebook, that's totally fine. You can flick an email to either team leaders at lifematters.co.nz or admin at lifematters.co.nz, and we'll just keep a bit of a list of what people are interested in.
Yeah, so we always need volunteers for the events that we host. So as Amy said, there's the Street Appeal, and then for our World Suicide Prevention Day as well, and just other things that pop up along the way. So there's always volunteers needed in that capacity. So there's opportunities to get involved all the time, which is great.
Cool. So there are plenty of ways that people can support Life Matters.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. And I mean, having been to the World Suicide Prevention Day events before, like they are so beautiful. I mean, like you said before, there's such a wonderful space for whatever it is you need in that time, but also really smoothly run in my experience. So
it's good to hear. Good to have the feedback.
Yeah. No, they're really, really special places. Awesome. So if you had to pick a favourite thing about working for Life Matters, what would it be?
Yeah, asking the hard questions.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Things, not thing, right?
Surely.
I mean, it's all of it. But I guess if I have to.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
It's the Hope Centre itself.
Yeah.
Me and a former colleague, Birdie, I miss him already. He's great. He's gone off to do genetic counselling and he's going to be amazing, and I hope he comes back one day. But we used to kind of semi-joke that there's hope in the walls. But there is, you know. It's so weird. I mean, we've just come back from a break, and often when you come back from a break and you come back to your job, you start to reflect and be like, oh, how do I feel about this? And I came back and I was like, I love everything here. It's like another home. So that.
Oh, that's so special.
Yeah. Oh, it's so hard. I don't know.
You can have more than one if there is more than one, because I didn't think you can as well. I didn't think just one would be an easy answer.
Probably the people. Yeah. Not just the co-workers, but also just the people that we support. Mm-hmm. Like, there's just so many incredible people in the community that we've built up at Life Matters, and I've learnt so many things from so many different people and have got some amazing support systems and some amazing friends out of it. And it's just been one of the most valuable spaces that I've been involved with in my life so far. And yeah, I don't know. I'm a big community people person, and I'd say that's probably one of my favourite, most rewarding parts of being at Life Matters is just the people that we have around us all the time.
Yeah, wonderful. So yes, head on down to Hanover Street and visit the lovely ladies at the Hope Centre, and have a look on the website. I believe that will give you a space to see what volunteering is available.
Yeah, there's a volunteer page, I'm pretty sure, on the website.
Yeah, there's a few links there and just how to contact us. You can also stalk our peer supporters.
Yeah,
we've got there's a team page with a bio and I'm raising that because the reality is, if somebody is listening to this and thinking about, hey, maybe peer support could really benefit me, but I'm a little scared, sometimes having a look at who's there and their own lived experiences, as some of us have shared bits and pieces in our bios, you can go, oh, hey, well, maybe I do want to go connect with that person.
Yeah, and kind of along the lines of, I guess, the Rainbow podcast as well. We do have Rainbow peer supporters, and we each have a little rainbow emoji next to our names, so
Yeah.
we're there.
Excellent. And so that website is lifematters.org.nz. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yep. I'm looking at Amy because she does the website, but she's looking at me and I'm like, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure that's the one. But if you put in Life Matters Dunedin in Google, it'll come up anyway.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to find.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been such a beautiful kōrero. I'm sure we could probably talk for ages about the wonders of Life Matters, but just head on down to Hanover Street and check it out for yourself. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
The Rainbow Umbrella theme song is by Paul S. Allen and Beth. Check them out on Spotify. New episodes of The Rainbow Umbrella are available every fourth Thursday on Otago Access Radio 105.4 FM, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to get your podcasts. Do you have an idea for an episode or something you would like to kōrero about? Get in touch at rainbowumbrellapod@gmail.com.